Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast. It's Thursday, August 8th, and we are energized by Celsius as always, as the Buccaneers wind down their training camp practices this week, getting ready to play the Cincinnati Bengals on Saturday in Cincinnati to start the preseason. And we've got a very special guest. I should put very on there, not just special guest, but very special guest, because this guy, I have known him for a long time. He is the Atlanta Falcons head coach, Raheem Morris, but to me, he's always going to be a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're welcoming in Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris, joining myself, Scott Reynolds, and Adam Slavon from Pewter Report. Rye, how you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm so blessed. I'm down here in Miami, and we're about to play tomorrow versus the Miami Dolphins in our first preseason game. And we've been lucky enough to be down here practicing and got a little time to come talk to some good old friends, man.
Well, I really appreciate that. This is phenomenal. I know your time is limited, so we're going to kind of dive right in if it's okay with you. It's been a long time coming, but you're a head coach again. Your first head coaching stint was, of course, right here in Tampa. And, you beat out Bill Belichick for that job, man. I mean, Bill Belichick was rumored to be kind of the front runner there, but you ended up getting that job. How does it feel to be back in charge of a team again?
You know, it feels great, but to say you beat out the greatest coach, arguably to coach, I don't want to get beat up down here in Miami when Shula's close, but to say you beat out Belichick, it's kind of one of those things that you don't really believe in. You know, it's just the Atlanta Falcons and Arthur Blank had a vision. They went out and they did a process, and they went through the process. And I was fortunate enough to come out and to be able to lead this team again. And it was really good because the familiarity that I had in Atlanta and some of those different things, and it's like home, and being able to come back in this area, in this home, in this division, which we know a lot about, and all those things that go along with those things. And it's just a beautiful experience. And I'm just happy to be back.
Yeah. So you've had the opportunity throughout your time in the NFL to learn from some amazing NFL head coaches, a lot of which are Super Bowl winners, from John Gruden, Mike Shanahan, Dan Quinn, and Sean McVay. What is one takeaway that you have from each of those head coaches? And maybe throw in Monty Kiffin as well. I know you spent a lot of time with him.
You know, it's again, I've been around, like you just mentioned, great coaches, but being around John Gruden and his presentations and his skill set to develop and his skill set to get in front of a room and absolutely hold the content and hold the audience the way he was and captivate everybody around him was definitely something that I learned and I stole from him and I took from him, and that energy that he brought every single day. And then you move to Mike Shanahan when I was fortunate to go work for him, on his second stint with a different team, Super Bowl winning guy at Denver. And I watched him and his due diligence, that his process that he had with the offense, with the defense, with the special teams. And at that time, I was coming off of being a head coach with the Buccaneers, and he was kind of molding me and grooming me until when it would happen again and how it would happen. And we joked a lot about his first time when he was in Oakland, and it was a quick stint for him, and he made it a year and a half. And he said, I killed his record because I made it 3, but it was all great learning lessons when it got to those guys. And then I was fortunate enough to come down here to the Falcons and be able to help Dan Quinn go to a Super Bowl, not finish the deal, but I really learned from his patience and his ability to listen. And he's one of the better listeners that I've ever been around in the game and in football, and to be able to listen to all the people around him and talk about those things and be able to re-energize the franchise that way. And his energy was infectious, and he brought the brotherhood down here, and it just stuck. And it's one of those things that you just love. And then going to join a buddy, Sean McVay, out in LA was really cool, right? Because we had talked about this experience when it possibly could happen for him exactly in Tampa at my house when he would come visit and talk about, we talked about like him leading the franchise and what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do. And he's absolutely took it past to another level with us winning the Super Bowl and the collaboration that we had and the collaboration that he had. And he showed me with the organization, with Kevin Demoff, other people, and Les Snead in the ownership group, and all those guys being together on the same page, was sick. And it was unbelievable. And that was a great experience for me. And I hate to leave out Jay Gruden, because you definitely learned some things from him as well, right? Yeah. Jay was the same guy, right? A guy that was obsessed with offense. Some of that obsessed behavior that he was able to bring to Washington. And it was a lot of fun to watch him for that year. And then ultimately, when you talk about Monty Kiffin, rest in peace, man, you talked about the guy who just absolutely showed you the work ethic. He absolutely showed you the detail that was required in order to go out there and win a championship every single day. He showed you the no blink mentality. He was like a father figure to me. And I can't talk enough about his kindness that he showed my family, and everybody in Tampa that worked for him and around him. Yes, he was nuts, and yes, he had issues. And Raheem, we gotta go, man. And I can imitate him for days, but the love that I have for him and his family, and what he showed me when I was able to work for him as a very young coach, I can't thank him enough.
You mentioned young coach, and it's funny because I remember doing a story on Mike Tomlin for Buccaneer magazine back in the day, and actually it was Pewter Report magazine. I think we had just transitioned our name,
Exactly right.
And Monty said, "Oh, fine, I'll talk to you about Mike Tomlin. You got to go talk to Raheem Morris. He's the next one. He's the next Mike Tomlin." And I probably did the first interview with you.
You did
back in the day.
You were probably one of my first interviews in Tampa, and I had the big picture on the front of the magazine.
Yeah,
and I remember my dad, he still lives in Tampa, and he kept that picture, and he still has it in the house. So every time I get a chance to come home, I get a chance to see that magazine and a copy of that. But that was a special moment.
Scott Reynolds.
That was a special moment. It was a great article. Look at Scott right there, man. I
was young back then.
And
you were young too, Rob.
His swaggy vest right there. But that might have been at the Senior Bowl, Scott, to be honest.
That was at the Senior Bowl. Yeah, man, look at you.
And it was one of those things where it always be prideful. And anytime you call, you always be one of those people that I'll always answer for, because the belief that you breathed into me and the belief that you had in me, even as a young coach.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's talk real briefly about your time in Tampa as head coach. I know you and Mark Dominic were incredibly young.
Sure.
You were set to take over as John Gruden's defensive coordinator when Monty Kiffin went to Tennessee. All of a sudden, he's getting fired, and you're the head coach of the Buccaneers. And and Mark Dominic replaced Bruce Allen, respectively. Why didn't it work out in Tampa Bay? You guys went 10-6 in 2010 and started off 2011 with a 4-1 record, and then that's a 14-7 record to start those 2 years before the 2011 season kind of spiraled on you. What went wrong, and what would you have done differently looking back?
I really believe, people want to make a comparison, because I talk about the collaborative efforts of the head coach and the general manager. And Mark and I were as good of teammates as you could be, but we didn't know what we didn't know, right? We didn't know what to share with each other and what not to keep from each other. We came from this secretive environment that kind of Bruce and we had learned from all of our people that we've been around, and John Gruden, to keep those things close to the vest, where when I got a chance to really see things work was with Dan Quinn, when he got a chance to be able to share with Thomas Dimitroff, until that went sideways. But to be able to go watch it with Sean McVay and Les, and watch those guys collaborate and absolutely show each other everything, and be really transparent with your staff and your front office and everybody involved, and make those decisions together. And when you made those decisions together, you get better decisions, you get better quality of work, you get better quality of everything. You don't have to worry about everything getting out, because everybody feels invested. And I really believe that's where I missed the boat the first time, and going through that experience of going to different places and seeing it done different ways with Mike Shanahan, like you mentioned, with Dan Quinn, with Les Need and Sean McVay out in LA, and Kevin Demoff and those guys. And I think that's really helped me to this point to develop and mature to be better at this time around, and really be able to maintain some of the success that we had short term out there in Tampa.
Yeah. And one last thing about kind of the old days, what happened with Josh Freeman? Because, I met him, you introduced me to him at Kansas State back when he was a freshman in 2006. You guys had just beaten number 4 Texas on Saturday Night Football, and he had some bright moments under you, and then you left. Greg Schiano came in, and it just seemed to spiral for him.
He did, man. He really played well for us. The plan that first year, I know you remember, was to try to send him out and not play him. And we couldn't get a win with lefty. And then we played a little Josh Johnson, who's still playing amazingly.
Right.
And then, when he went down, he ended up going into that first game, coming off the bye and playing against Green Bay in the Creamsicles. And we got our first win with him in the command. And it was one of those things where he was in that process of just grinding through games and throwing for 260 and 270, 1 week 220, rushing for 4 first downs in the game or 3 first downs in the game. And he controlled the offense, and we ran the ball really well. We had good coaches in Greg Olsen and some of the guys that I was able to work with back then. We made a lot of quick transitional changes from the front office, from our coordinators, from a bunch of stuff. And we were able to get ahead of the curve. We went right to that following year, and we were able to get to a 10-6 record, where arguably we had a couple nail biters in there versus Cleveland, versus Detroit, that could have got us into the dance. And who knows what happened when you get in. We did not finish maybe one of the 2 teams in the National Football League history that didn't make the playoffs with a 10-6 record. Go into the next year, hit the lockout, come out of that thing, start off, like you said, 4-1. And I feel like I made some young rookie mistakes or young coach mistakes by trying to start off right from there and not starting from the beginning and rebuilding that thing the way we needed to get it done in order to maintain that success. And we weren't able to hold on to the rope, and we let the rope go. And I was hoping that Josh would be able to continue and grow and get better and better, but he eventually was able to flame out of there and not do so well in Tampa.
Yeah.
I know he still lives in Tampa.
Yeah.
He's doing well for himself. He still owns property down there, but it just wasn't able to work out for him. And then, a short life of a player. And I've been fortunate enough to keep grinding and stay in this thing and do it as long as I've been able to do it. And lucky enough that to work myself back into position to be able to talk about those things with some of the young guys I got now.
Yeah. The Bucs have had two absolutely franchise-crushing losses to the Rams, right? The one in 1999, the NFC Championship game in St. Louis, and then the playoff game in Tampa in 2021. You were the defensive coordinator for that game. You beat the Buccaneers and went on to win the Super Bowl that year in LA. Your defense held the Bucs to just 3 points in the first half, and you hung on to win because that was a nail biter.
Oh, man, it was Tom Brady. And
how did you shut him in the offense down in the first half? And what do you remember about that game?
I let Mike Greenberg know about this all the time. We're really good friends, close friends, him and Jason. Yeah. But we really tried to apply pressure to Tom early, and we had some really unique rushers with Aaron Donald. We had, Flo. We had Vaughn Miller off the edge, and we caused a lot of havoc, and we flustered him. We got away with a legal hit. We hit him in the face, and Tom was all pissed off at the officials, and we were really rolling. Yeah. And we had this thing under control and in control. But as you know, with Tom Brady, there is no such thing as a safe lead. And we made a few mistakes. We fumbled the ball here. We got a pick, and we weren't able to punch it out. We fumbled out of bounds at the end of the half there. We really could have got that lead extended. We did a couple of little things that you can't do versus the greatest. And he was able to make that thing come back until Stafford made that heck of a play at the end in the 2-minute drill, which was unbelievable. And we ran out of town. That was the fastest I ever wanted to leave Tampa. Really, my time visiting. And what a win. What a victory for us. That was a great game. Propelled us into going back home, playing against the 49ers, our nemesis that year, to get the win in that big game. And then eventually going to win the Super Bowl, which was outstanding and one of the better moments. So we both have two fairly new, pretty big Super Bowl rings that we can brag about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward to modern times now. You arrive in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, quite the accomplished quarterback throughout his career with Washington and Minnesota. With that, the Falcons are now the presumptive favorites, despite the fact that the Bucs have won the NFC South for the past 3 years. With that, how do you feel about the expectations of maybe the Falcons being the favorite now?
First thing, Adam, you never buy into that hype of the favorite. You've been in this division long enough to know that we went through a stretch where a different person won it every year. We've gone through a stretch where you guys have been able to maintain this dominance in the last couple of years, and this division will do nothing but get better and better. I remember when the NFC East was supposedly the weak division, and then they got strong, and then all of a sudden those things happened and it played out that way. But I know a lot of your people. I know what you're made of. I've got so much respect for Todd Bowles. I got so much respect for Baker Mayfield. I got so much respect for Mike Williams and some of the stuff that you guys have done on both sides of the ball. I can go on all day. The linebacker Davis and all of those guys. But I mean, you gotta go out and you gotta play. And you got to play the matchup that you put in front of you each week. And really the favorite thing is for our fans, is for the fun of the game. It can't mean anything to the individual sport, the individual team, the individual guys that's involved with it. You got to go out there and you got to win those divisions. You got to take those divisions. If you don't, you're sadly mistaking yourself and what the clarity of it all means. And those expectations you got when you have a quarterback, give me those expectations, because I know what it's like when you don't have one.
Right. Exactly. You're a defensive-minded head coach. Are you calling plays, or is Jimmy Lake calling plays?
Jimmy Lake is the play caller, and that allows me, because I'm so nosy, and I was fortunate enough to be able to coach on both offense and defense and really be a part of both of these systems, right? We're running a similar system that we ran in LA, and we're mixing some stuff in to make it our defense in Atlanta. We're running a similar system that we ran in LA on offense, and we make it a similar system with myself and Zach Robinson and some of the coaches that we have here, and some of the people that we have here, like Dwayne Ledman, some of the guys that you played against the last couple of years. But we got similar systems in place that I know very well on both sides of the ball, and allows me to be nosy and to be able to be creative and to be able to be helpful for both coordinators and be able to be that guy that they can both lean on. And then I ran into one of the better special teams coaches I've ever been around, in Marquise Williams, and really formed this group of guys that is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun as a division. I know the mentality of the guys in that front office at the Bucs. I know the mentality of the guys that are coaching that football team, and there will be no favorites when you come to line up against each other. It's just not how it plays out, not how it works.
Jimmy Lake knows, I think, half the Buccaneers because he was at Washington, and this is like Washington South down here in terms of the Huskies.
Pipeline.
Oh yeah, I had Jason Light. You can ask Jason Light about this. I had him so nervous when I texted him right before the draft when he was about to draft Vita. You take a Vita, aren't you? I know your mentality. And sure enough, he took Vita, and he was lucky enough and fortunate enough to go get great gains. One of my guys in free agency that won a Super Bowl with us in LA and played outstanding for me, and just a smart, unique individual in his own rights. And he was able to go draft Tryon, and Tryon's been coming off that edge for a while for Jimmy. So Jimmy knows a bunch of those guys. And I got so much respect for the people we're going to play against, and it's going to be a heck of a run. It's going to be a heck of a ride in this division. And we're going to get back to the old days of the NFC South where let's see who can win this thing, man. Let's go out there and try to dominate and do what we got to do. But, you guys have held it down, and I got a lot of respect for the people in that building.
As a defensive-minded head coach, what are your thoughts on Todd Bowles? Just, when you watch him, watch his scheme, watch his film.
I don't know if you know the history of Todd, but I've known Todd from a long time. Todd went to Elizabeth, New Jersey. He went to Elizabeth in high school. I went to Irvington. We both played under the same high school coach. So the mentality of the bloody Italian in your face is what he's from and is what I'm from. So his mentality to attack the quarterback and make you uncomfortable, it is something that he's lived on. He's been about his whole professional career, and he's done that at a high level. And he brings more juice to the games with his play call and his decision making in some of those moments that I got a lot of respect for Todd as well when it comes to those things. And obviously, I know your offensive coordinator. Worked with him, been with him for a year. Got a lot of experience with him and know what his style is and what he's going to do. But it's just a mutual respect between the guys and how we go about our business. But just know on game day that we're both going to be out to probably get each other.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, and not just him, also offensive line coach Kevin Carberry.
Oh, yeah.
What can you say about what they'll bring to the Buccaneers based on what you saw back in LA?
Well, Liam's going to bring a wealth of knowledge. He has a certain swag about him and a certain authentic energy that people are going to love. He'll get mad at me about this, but he probably has on a beautiful waffle t-shirt, waffle sweater right now from Lululemon because he's so stylish. But he's one of those guys that's going to bring a bunch of energy to that room. The players are going to love him. He's going to be able to absolutely breathe confidence into him, just like he did at Kentucky and what he was able to do with us when he was with us at the Rams, with the 2 stints that he was there. And that's just what he does. And then Carberry brings a toughness to the game, and he's a critical thinker. He's a guy that's going to be embraced in the run game and be able to get some of those thoughts to Liam so Liam can make some of those calls. And I'm sure he'll be heavily involved with those things. But the toughness he's going to preach in his guys and getting those guys to play. A Bill Callahan disciple, one of the greatest in the game. And you see what they did out in Cleveland running the football. And I think now he's moved on to Tennessee with his son. But you always got respect from that Callahan tree, just like you got respect for that Monty Kiffin tree when you're talking about defense and all the great history of this game. I just saw Rob Marinelli yesterday at the Miami. Bill Barry's down here. And to be able to be around him and get some of those reminiscent thoughts of like old school coaching and some of those old school battles make you think about all those old school coaches that really influenced us. And Bill Callahan was definitely one of the ones that got Carberry.
You hired Zach Robinson from the Rams. So it's funny, like you guys have a Rams offense. The Bucs have a Rams offense down here. He doesn't have any play calling experience. The Bucs went through that last year with Dave Canales.
Yeah,
how
that
is Zach doing?
well.
It did work out well. Worked out very well for the Bucs and for Dave.
No
Maybe
doubt.
Even more so for Dave, right?
Yeah.
How is Zach doing as a play caller and kind of like learning how to transition to, it's one thing to be that Sean McVay disciple. It's another thing to actually call the plays out there in practice. And, do you feel like maybe you have an advantage because you were so embedded in that Rams system for so long that you might know what Liam's going to be dialing up?
I hate to say an advantage, right? Because realistically, this thing goes back with all these guys, right? When you talk about Sean and all those guys with John Gruden, right? And coming from that offense of the West Coast, and then how it morphed when we brought in the young Cal Shanahan to the Bucs, right? Yeah. Then the young Cal Shanahan was at the Bucs and was able to move on and go back with his dad, and they formed the offense that formed whatever they're going to do in 21.
Hold on one second. And you're blowing people's minds because we're old school, but I mean, there's probably some young fans that are saying, wait a minute, Cal Shanahan and Sean McVay were a part of the Buccaneers?
Oh, yeah. And then you had Sean McVay at the Bucs, right? He's got some ideas and some thoughts and some genuine juice that he brought. And then these guys all got separated. And then next thing you know, you got Shanahan over here running his offense from the West Coast version from a 21, because that's his personnel. Sean running from 11. You got Liam Cohen out there with Sean. You got Zach Robinson there. You got Mike McDaniels, Matt LaFleur, and all of these guys and all of these names and all these coaches. And all you do is take these similar traits and you go grab the next guy, right? And the next one for me was Zach Robinson, giving him that opportunity to go out there and make the calls and get some of those dynamic ideas that's going to come out. So these things will be similar. They will have a lot of carryover in what they've done in the past. But these unique minds, Mike McDaniels, what do you talk about inventing the flare motion? They're just asking you to tell you invented himself, or doing some of those different things. The creative ideas and the stealing of property and people. That's what it's about. And the knowledge and the high level ball and the high capacity thinkers that they are is really what makes it fun. And my years on offense with Kyle and being with him in those years really helped me. Moving on with Steve Sarkisian, we were together in Atlanta, and to be able to see some of those things, and finishing off with Dirk Cutter. I mean, I got 3 sets of offense that I coached on, not just coached with and different people, but coached on, along with the long wealth of knowledge that I had from Mike Shanahan, John Gruden, going back then, and all of these guys. And that allows us to come up with the best ideas for the team and the people that we have.
Yep.
So the most important way, or the most important player for an offense to run, is the quarterback. And the Falcons not only got Kirk Cousins, they also drafted Michael Penix, 8th overall. The Bucs really liked Penix being from Tampa. What can you say about how he's looked in practice? And with that, is Kirk Cousins showing any ill effects from his Achilles injury, or does he look all the way back?
Kirk being held back by me only, and that's by design, right? He's shown the ability to get out there and scramble, and I'm blowing a quick whistle. I got quick nick on the whistle, and he's blowing as soon as he takes off the scramble and stop him from moving around a little bit. But he has really come back and bounced back, and he's done a great job over the summer to come back and make sure he was in tip-top shape in order to lead this offense. And our leader is ready to go, and I'm fired up to see him, obviously not in these preseason games, but I'm fired up to see him ready to start the season and go. And then young Michael, I've loved the way he has gravitated and learned under Kurt, because he has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience of being that fighter, of being that guy that comes in and being that guy that's able to do it, doing it at a high level in this league for a long time. And watching him play these last 12 years, whether it's been the Viking or in DC, I can't say how proud I am of it, but I'm more proud to watch him share his story with Michael Penix and our team in order to make us better. And that's what he's done. And that's all you can ask from your leader and your floor general. And that's what he's been able to do for us. And I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. One last thing, and I knew you got to run here. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
When it comes to some of your favorite Buccaneers, I mean, obviously it starts with Rondé Barber, right? I mean, you and I were there for his Hall of Fame induction this time last year, which was a lot of fun to catch up with you and obviously see Raheem, go into the hall, which was amazing. But aside from that, a guy who is just a legend, who were some of your favorite Buccaneers that you got a chance to coach, whether it was as a head coach or back when you were a defensive backs coach, or Mike Tomlin's, go for your first couple of years in the organization?
Yeah, this list can go on for so long, but obviously, Rondé's so special, near and dear to a lot of us. Mike Tomlin, myself, Jimmy Lake. He's a guy. He likes to say he made more head coaches than anybody, and he probably has. And to watch him go into the Hall of Fame was one of these special moments for all of us. But I've acquired so many friends all the way from the top. When you're talking about the Glazier family, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't leave out Brian, Joel, Ed, and that would be unfair, right? Yeah. Because the stuff that they've done for me and how they've treated me, even since being fired, right? These guys have been amazing to myself and my family, and I love them for that. I'm still going to try to beat their butts, but I love them for that. And then when you talk about players like Derrick Brooks, Derrick Brooks is a legend in the game. He's a legend off the game, out of the game. He's a legend. I'll get a random text from Derrick Brooks at any time about the core beliefs of what we've done. But talking coaching with Mike Tomlin or Rod Marinelli or Monty Kiffin, some of those stories, or Joe Barry, Joe Woods in that room, or you talking back anybody. I mean, are we talking about when I was the coach, when it was Greg Olson and it was Eric Yarber and all of that crew. Yeah. I mean, from the coaching standpoint, but it has been so much fun, just to be able to keep those. We won a Super Bowl together first, and that's special, right? When you do that, there's a bond with Dwight Smith, Dexter Jackson, Shelton Quarles. There's a bond with Keyshawn Johnson. There's a bond that won't go away. And I got a chance to be around Keyshawn when I was out in LA and eat with him a bunch and make that And then see Keenan McCardle get into coaching and do some really special things. It's just
Yeah.
so many people I can name, Michael Pittman, whoever, but Mike Allstott, all of those guys. But it's just like, it was such a good time and a good place for me to start my career at the Harvard of football when it came to defense, being under Monty Kiffin.
Yeah.
And then being able to cross the sides of the ball and having a unique guy who wanted to teach people football at any level in John Gruden.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about the people that I was coaching with there, or even the people running the show now, right? I've made this great friendship with Jason Light, their general manager.
Yeah.
I've maintained an unbelievable relationship. Maintained an unbelievable relationship. One of my best friends is Mike Greenberg, and those guys have been great. Now we're going to compete and go at each other, and everybody's going to hold us to that standard, and we will show up on those days. But it has certainly been fun to root from afar, and now it's going to be certainly fun to go play against those guys and be around those people.
Yeah. Raheem Morris, really appreciate you joining us. This has been a long time coming. I'm super excited for you to get this opportunity to lose twice a year to the Buccaneers and finish second in the NFC South. But I'd love having you on the podcast, and you know what, wild card I think is waiting there for you guys in the Atlanta Falcons organization.
Scott, that was such an Ira Kaufman move, man. That was low. That was a low blow. Can't wait to see you guys, man. You kind of come to us and play in your first playoff game. See you soon.
Hey, appreciate your time, Rob. Thanks so much, folks. That was fantastic, David. Really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Raheem Morris there, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Joining us. Fun to go down memory lane with them for a little bit. You know, it's training camp. We would love to have done a full hour with Raheem, just because there's so many cool stories to get to and so many players we could have talked about and this, that, and the other thing. We tried to cover a little bit of old and a little bit of new because the Bucs and Falcons are going at it this year. But very cool to reconnect with Raheem. I go way back with that guy, and even he was the defensive coordinator at Kansas State one year. Yeah. And I broke that story. Well, surprise, right? My alma mater and Raheem Morris. I was destined to break that story. I also broke it when he came back to Tampa Bay to replace Mike Tomlin as the defensive backs coach. But one of the funniest things was he gets out to Manhattan, Kansas, and Ron Prince had just replaced Bill Snyder as the head coach. Snyder had retired. And then he had to come out of retirement because Ron Prince basically burned the program to the ground in 3 years. Josh Freeman escaped and went to Tampa. Raheem Morris came back to Tampa. But the offensive coordinator under Ron Prince was actually James Franklin, the Penn State head coach. So he had Raheem Morris as the defensive coordinator, Atlanta Falcons head coach, and he had the offensive coordinator at that time. Josh's freshman year at Kansas State was James Franklin. So, it just shows you how he screwed that up, right? When you've got a head coach at Penn State and a head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then the Atlanta Falcons. And ironically, just to kind of put a bow in this little Kansas State Raheem Morris thing, in Josh's first year, they went to the Texas Bowl. That was the inaugural Texas Bowl that year. And the team that we played in the Texas Bowl and lost to was the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Greg Schiano's team. So
all the connections and parallels there.
Yeah, this is like some Kevin Bacon stuff, right? Some like 6 degrees of separation there. But so really enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. That was pretty cool to talk to Raheem.
It was, and covered over like 20 years of football in just over 20 minutes. I'd consider that quite the accomplishment. Well,
the reason why I was able to do that, Adam, is because I had a Celsius this morning. And that's what Celsius will do for you. It's the official energy drink of Pewter Report. You know that. And you also know where to find them. You can go to Amazon and buy them in bulk. They'll ship them right to your house. That's the best part. It's like getting a Christmas present or a holiday present, at your door. And it's something that is essential energy that's going to help power your day. And if you don't want to order through Amazon, if you want to just go grab a can, you can do that. There's plenty of places around town that you can do that. Go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, find the location near you by punching in your address. It might be a gas station, convenience store. It might be a health and fitness store. It might be a chain store like a Walmart or a Target, or it might be your bodega. And then when you find those flavors that you like, go ahead and get them on Amazon. You just get them sent right to your house. You can also buy them in Instacart. Celsius, the official energy drink of Pewter Report. Well, we had a practice today as well, but before we get to that, we need to take care of some business here. We've started our Pewter Report channel membership program yesterday, and we've already had, gosh, we're approaching 20 new members right off the bat, and we want to welcome some new members. Scott Federico, we really appreciate him, and Colin Shaw becoming new members, as well as Payne Gusto. So thank you very much for your channel members. We really appreciate all of those, and we just had a new one as well from John Berserker. We're just going to call you Berserker because your last name is intimidating, and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I don't want to butcher it. But thank you so much for joining the Pewter Report TV channel membership, and we greatly appreciate all the support. It's a great way for y'all to support Pewter Report. We really appreciate the super chats. We're inching closer to 15,000 subscribers. And that's awesome. We're going to hit that, I think, by this weekend, which I'm really excited about. But if you want to take your support for Pewter Report to a whole new level, you can do that by becoming a channel member. And you can simply do that by clicking in the link that I dropped in to the chat. You can also look at the description of every podcast that'll have a link to join there, or you can hit that join button on the front page of Pewter Report TV. And there's 4 different levels of membership. You can look at those. I'm not going to waste time here on the podcast with all of the different perks, but the higher level membership, the more perks you get. We're going to have our exclusive Q&A videos with Pewter Report staffers begin next week. It's going to be next Friday, live in Jacksonville. So we're going to be at the Jacksonville Bucs joint practices Wednesday and Thursday up in Jacksonville. We're going to be in town. We're going to stay in town for the game on Saturday. And on Friday, we're going to be answering your questions. So if you are a Pewter Premier member or a Pewter Platinum member, you're going to have access to an exclusive Q&A where you can ask us pretty much anything. And we'll have some inside scoop for you as well. So whatever membership is right for you, we really appreciate the support. And so, you can find out how to do that on the front page of Pewter Report TV. And it was a good way to end the week, I think, practice-wise, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because I like defense. The outside linebackers, they came to play today, did they not, Sly?
Yeah, each of them. Chris Braswell, Marquise Watts, Jose Ramirez, they were all out there making plays. Braswell, he made the most. He had the headline interception on Baker Mayfield. And Todd Bowles afterwards, he kind of was joking that he may have picked it off, but, man, he got to pitch that ball because he can't run it back yet. But Braswell did really well. Marquise Watts and Ramirez, they both had sacks, and they had opportunities because Anthony Nelson, he was limited. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, he wasn't out there. And, of course, with Yaya Diaby. But each of them capitalized. They had plenty of reps, and they were going up against, Luke Gedeke, Tristan Wirfs, and they were making the most of it.
Yep. We also have a little bit of breaking news here. The Buccaneers had a transaction. This is a little unfortunate because I thought he was having a pretty good camp, actually. Silas Zanzi, the reserve tackle, he is on injured reserve. And we saw that injury happen in practice. Yeah. It was a knee injury, and he is going on injured reserve. He becomes the second offensive lineman to go on injured reserve, second player to go on injured reserve, also joining Sua Opeta on IR. And the Buccaneers signed Ryan Johnson, who entered the league as a college free agent with the Patriots earlier this year. Ryan Johnson comes from Youngstown State University. So 6'2", 306, he's a guard. And it's just unfortunate. You hate to see guys, have their seasons ended so early in training camp. We saw that last year, right? With the wide receiver. He was, I'm drawing a blank.
Russell Gage.
Russell Gage, thank you very much. Yeah, Josh Capo he's gonna shame me for that because he was a Russell Gage fan. Me, not so much. So, but yeah, it's tough to see guys have those types of injuries. And of course, Ryan Jensen. Second day of camp a couple of years ago was devastating. But it would have been probably another year on the practice squad for Silas Zanzi. But I thought he was making some strides, and he was a big offensive tackle, like 6'5", 335 pounds, big guy. So unfortunately, he'll be, on IR again, and we'll see what happens there. But you mentioned Chris Braswell. He really, I thought, played pretty well today, and he's a player that is going to take some time. It's going to take, I think he's going to have a Yaya Diaby type year.
Yeah.
And I know there's some higher expectations with him being a second-year player, so to speak. But one of the things that I liked about Braswell, and remember, we had him as the Bucs' first-round pick in our initial mock draft back in January. We're throwing darts on the dartboard because it's January. We hadn't even been at the Senior Bowl yet. We didn't know, who shakes out as a first-round pick, who's more of a second, third-round pick. And I thought he played okay at the Senior Bowl, but we kind of cooled on him a little bit. But sure, a second-round pick, yeah, I think he's going to be just fine. But he made a great interception. Actually had a pick 6 last year at Alabama. And he did really well dropping in coverage. There was one play early on in the 11-on-11s where he actually buzzed to the flat, as Todd Bowles will do. Sometimes it's a little maddening. He will drop his outside linebackers, right? It's great when they pick off passes. We've seen Shaq Barrett do that. We've seen Jason Pierre-Paul do that. It's cool when that happens. But to see Braswell kind of buzz the flat and cover Chris Godwin in the flat, and then Baker Mayfield gets flushed out running right towards Braswell. Braswell had the wherewithal to understand he's kind of in no man's land, but just to stay and let Baker come to him rather than commit, and then all of a sudden Baker throws over the top to Godwin. He played it perfectly. Almost like he was reading an option. And then when Baker kind of crossed the line of scrimmage, he touched him, and it would have been like, a 1-yard gain. But great football IQ, great wherewithal in coverage. Then he drops into coverage. It looked just like Logan Hall dropping and picking off Kyle Trask in the middle of the field, but he picked off Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and you make that point with football IQ with Braswell, and I thought it was interesting just kind of connecting that to what Javier Thomas had to say today about Tyke Smith. I mean, Braswell's coming from Alabama, Tyke's coming from Georgia. These are NFL-ready defenses where you're already facing so many high-level prospects that are going to be in the NFL. And just for Braswell to have that kind of heady play, as Todd Bowles would say, and be able to react to that, and then also getting that interception, it shows that he has coverage ability. And the scouting report on Braswell was that he's a physical player, kind of along the lines of Yaya Diaby. Of course, it's going to take time for him to acclimate to the strength of NFL offensive linemen and kind of setting that edge. But so far, he's showing that he has the talent to get on the field and in that outside linebacker rotation, really stake his case for it.
Yeah. And this is a big week because we haven't seen Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. I think that he's going to be held out of the game. He is dressed. He's done individual work, but the team has kept him out with an undisclosed injury from contact in 11-on-11. So JTS has been there. He's been doing individual stuff, but when it comes to the 11-on-11s, they've held him out. Anthony Nelson, I think, might play a couple reps and that's it. But this is going to be on Saturday against the Bengals. This is going to be the Chris Braswell, Marquise Watts, Jose Ramirez show, and then the other guys, Griziak, the newcomer person, he'll get a couple of reps for sure, as well. Sean Peterson, we'll see what his health status is, but he's been injured. But this is going to be a game where those young outside linebackers are going to get a lot of playing time, a lot of looks. And Marquise Watts and Jose Ramirez, both these guys have really come on with this extra amount of reps that they're getting. And Marquise Watts made a really good play in coverage as well. Again, buzzing to the flat, covering Jalen McMillan in the flat, and batted a ball down and prevented a completion. We saw Jose Ramirez and Watts get would-be sacks today. And I like that these guys are really taking advantage of these extra reps.
For sure. And you talk about not just the outside linebackers, but the defensive line, the backup defensive linemen today. You had Judge Culpepper, Ernest Brown, and CJ Brewer, and Eric Banks. I mean, each of them had really good days out there today with, what was it, Banks, Brewer, and Culpepper each getting sacks. So if this is a preview, I mean, the Bucs are hoping it's a preview. And then the actual show on Saturday is, again, each of these guys coming out there and impressing.
Yeah. We're impressed with Kathy Gillespie. We really appreciate your support and your super chats, Kathy. $1.99 super chat. Awesome interview. Welcome memories. Wonderful memories. Yes. It was great having Raheem Morris on. And we're going to have, we're working on John Lynch. We're trying to get our schedules coordinated where we can get the general manager for the 49ers, Buccaneer Hall of Famer, John Lynch. I guess we got to say Denver Broncos Hall of Famer too, but he's really a Buccaneer. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a Buccaneer. So The guests are going to keep coming. We're going to have John Spytek on. He's committed to come on the podcast, not next week because we're going to be in Jacksonville, but the week after. So we'll have 2 preseason games, the Bengals and the Jaguars, to talk about with John Spytek, who talked to the media today and was pretty excited about this young group. And these rookies keep impressing. And I've gone on record saying 4 of these guys are going to be eventual starters. And Sly, that's an amazing number. When you consider this team won 10 games and the division championship last year without these guys,
mm-hmm.
and now everybody that was here, the Yaya Diabis, the Kalijah Kansis, those second-year players that are now third-year players, the Rashad Whites, the Cade Ottens, they've all leveled up. And now you add in this year's rookie class, and when I say 4 guys, Graham Barton's going to be the eventual starter at center. You're going to have Chris Braswell at some point in time become the starting outside linebacker opposite Yaya Diaby. Remember, it didn't happen for Diaby till the 49ers game. Diaby didn't get his first sack until week 8 against the Bills. Then you're going to have the 2 third-round picks. Jalen McMillan is going to be wide receiver 3. He's a third-round pick. The other third-round pick, Tyke Smith, he's going to be the nickel. He made another great pass breakup today in man coverage. That's 4 starters from this year's draft class that are going to crack the starting lineup on a 3-time NFC South championship team. That's quite a feat for this Jason Light draft class.
Yeah, and it kind of alludes to your new Pewter Pulse, too, talking about Jason Light and his secret to his draft classes, because it seems like every year, like, you want a lot of hits, and Jason Light, he'd be competing for a batting title if we were playing baseball, because you alluded to not just those 4 guys that are going to be starters, but you also have Bucky Irving, who is going to form that 1-2 with Rashad White. Elijah Klein working his way into that right guard mix, maybe left guard. And then also Devin Culp, who had a really, I would say probably the best catch of training camp today against Keenan Isaac. He jumped up, spun, adjusted, and when Keenan Isaac hit him, he still held on to it. I thought that was a great play. He's really come on the past couple days. So altogether, you tie it in, all the draft picks, they really could contribute this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a 7th-round pick who I think right now is the front runner for the number 3 tight end job. I mean, Cade Otton, we probably have not said enough about Cade Otton. He is looking like a legit starting caliber, dangerous weapon tight end. And the great thing is, if you're Cade Otton, your name is not Mike Evans, your name is not Chris Godwin, and your name is not Rashad White. Those are going to be the 3 names in that order, Evans, Godwin, and White, that defensive coordinators are going to be honed in on first and foremost. And that means that you are probably perpetually the number 4 guy on offense that defensive coordinators like Raheem Morris have to worry about, right? And that's going to give you so many opportunities. And Baker Mayfield and Cade Otton, we've seen that rapport, that connection all the way through camp. It's picked up where it left off from last year at the end of the season, where he's catching the touchdown pass to beat the Falcons. Should have had the game winner against the Texans, if not for the collapse of the defense. The touchdown against the Lions in the playoff game, the 8 catches, 89 yards on Monday night against the Eagles in that wild card win. Cade Otton is kind of like the secret weapon on offense here.
Yeah, he is. And he kind of turned that corner, as you mentioned, in the playoffs, where he was Baker Mayfield's security blanket. And this year on offense, he's kind of that forgotten weapon, because you mentioned Evans, Godwin, and Rashad White, but also Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and even Bucky Irving. So all those guys, Cade Otton up the seam 10 yards, that might be his bread and butter. He might really contribute in ways most fans don't really see. But when you look at the stat sheet at the end of the game, you're gonna be like, oh, Cade Otton, 5 catches, 60 yards. He really could have those kind of games weekly.
And I'm telling you, we've talked so much about this 3 wide receiver offense, and that has been the favored personnel grouping and formation, the 3-by-1 split of Liam Cohen, right? That's just kind of like what the Rams do with Sean McVay, and Liam Cohen's brought that here to Tampa. And so you kind of think, well, this is a wide receiver driven offense, and it is. But it's not like that one tight end on the field gets ignored. Payne Durham has caught his share of catches and touchdowns. And Devin Culp, you mentioned today, he had 2 fantastic catches. The one in the end zone over Keenan Isaac, and then a one-handed catch where it was a little high and away from him, and he just jumped up and plucked the ball right out of the sky it was an amazing day for Devin Culp, and he has turned in
Yeah.
some amazing catches with his ability to get down the field with that speed. He was the fastest tight end at the combine, and we're kind of seeing him play faster now that he knows this offense.
Yeah. And you mentioned you wanted to talk about defense today. Well, let's turn it over to the nickel position, because it's quite the battle between Tavierre Thomas, Tyke Smith, and Christian Izien.
Yeah.
Izien also had a nice interception today.
He did.
Jalen McMillan was running a route. Kyle Trask threw it to him. He dropped it. The ball was in the air. Izien came down with it and started running upfield. It was encouraging to see Izien making a play, because it's been a long time since he's made an interception.
Yeah.
So with that nickel position, Scott, that's one position I'm going to be looking at in this preseason game on Saturday. Will Tyke Smith on the screen there really step up and make plays? Will he have those, like today, he had that really nice coverage rep. Can he carry that over? Will Tavierre Thomas, he's a big physical tackler. Can he also keep up the interceptions? He's had 3 in training camp. And then where does Izien kind of sit in that competition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. And I think when I'm just going to say it, I'm going to predict an interception for Tyke Smith. He has yet to pick off a pass in practice, but he's getting closer, right? He's getting those pass breakups. He's in position. He just has to pull the trigger. The guy has been incredible coming off the slot as a blitzer. And, surprise, surprise, Todd Bowles likes to blitz out of the slot. I mean, look at the 6 sacks from Antoine Winfield Jr. last year. And he'll blitz Jordan Whitehead. He'll blitz the strong safety, but he also likes to blitz the nickel. And Tyke Smith was a hell of a blitzer at Georgia, and I can see him getting maybe 2 or 3 sacks as a rookie this year. And I think he's going to have a very big game on Saturday. I would not be surprised if he comes down with his first pick as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I'm going to call my shot right now and just say it's going to happen.
That's your one bold prediction.
That's a bold prediction. The other bold prediction is we're not going to see Baker Mayfield or many of the starters. Todd Bowles came out today and said that some starters will play, but most will not. And you're going to see the rookie class, including Graham Barton, play a lot. And that means Tyke Smith. It means Bucky Irving. I think Bucky Irving, who is our training camp diary guy, along with Marquise Watts, will have 2 new installments next week as they talk about what happened on Saturday night in Cincinnati and previewing what's going to happen in Jacksonville with those joint practices with the Jaguars. But Bucky Irving is going to get a lot of carries this preseason. I would not be surprised if he leads this team in total yardage, running and receiving, and total touches. He just kind of has that. We've seen him get an incredible workload on the days where they're kind of dialing Rachaad White back a little bit. Of course, Chase Edmonds has not played or practiced at all since the first one.
And that's helping Bucky out.
It's helping Bucky with a ton of reps.
Yeah. And it seems like every day at training camp, I don't know, I pay attention to like everything going on, but it's always Bucky. It's always like the Bucky show, whether it's like Kyle Trask throwing him the ball, Bucky taking a handoff up the middle. He's seen, like, as you said, so many reps. So it'll be really interesting how that carries over to the preseason, with his calling card being that elusiveness in between the tackles. Guys can't bring him down. Will that happen? And if it does, I mean, it could potentially eat into Rachaad White's workload too.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachaad White, he spoke recently and mentioning that he still wants to be that bell cow running back, but it'll help him maybe not having 336 touches this year.
Exactly. Kyle Trask will be the starter. So for the Traskaholics, that's welcome news for you. You'll get to see Kyle Trask, and he did throw an interception today, but the good news is that was off of a deflection. Wasn't the best throw. Jalen McMillan kind of bobbled his back shoulder a little bit. Probably should have caught it. Probably should have been a slightly better pass. But Baker Mayfield now has 8 interceptions, and that was just a bad read. He did not see Chris Braswell dropping in coverage, and that's a good thing, because that's what Todd Bowles wants. That's exactly how Logan Hall got his interception off of Kyle Trask last Saturday, was dropping him into coverage right in the middle of the field, right in those throwing lanes for those crossers and those mesh routes. And Chris Braswell came up with his first interception today. So Baker has 8 interceptions. Wolford has 7. Kyle Trask has 6. And the interceptions are piling up on defense. And you kind of like to see this, Adam, because they have 21 now. You mentioned Tavierre Thomas has the lead at 3. It should be 4. He dropped 1. He admitted that today in his press conference. Your starting corners, Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum, each have 2. But then look at the guys just making plays. It's not 1 or 2 guys on defense stepping up. It is a bunch of guys. Outside linebacker, defensive tackle. You got 3 interceptions from inside linebackers. You've got 4 from safeties, and then a bunch of corners have gotten into the mix. So what do you like about this mix here? And it's young guys, it's veterans, it's new guys trying to make the team and make an impression. There's a lot to like there.
There is a lot to like, and I would be very interested to compare this to last year, because last year it seemed like it was a drought of no interceptions in training camp. And I don't know if it's been all the rain that we've gotten, but the interceptions are really flooding in this year.
They are.
Just the volume, and not just one guy maybe making 5 interceptions. You look at that list, it's so extensive. You got undrafted rookies, you got defensive linemen, Logan Hall, inside linebackers. And the hope is that like Todd Bowles' defense takes it up a notch this season, because last year it was really Antoine Winfield, and the rest of the secondary really wasn't making plays. Right. You had D. Delaney have 2 interceptions, Christian Izien 2 in the first 2 weeks. Jamel Dean, he made a couple scenes, but as a number 1 corner, you really want to see more out of him. Can Zion take that next step after being so productive at Sam Houston State? And if it does, if things start clicking like they are in training camp, it's really going to help out the offense too.
Yeah. Well, Jamel Dean's not just good at covering guys. He's also pretty good at water volleyball. At least that's what happened on the Bucs cruise this past spring.
We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course we're playing pool volleyball.
Hey, we on the Bucs cruise, of course. Anytime I say Tampa, they will say Bay. Tampa! Hey! Tampa! Hey! Tampa! Hey!
We're on the Bucs cruise. Of course, I've got my Super Bowl 37 hardware. What do you think?
We're on the Bucs cruise, and of course we had a pirate night. Arr!
Arr!
That's right. The Tampa Bay Bucs cruise. The Pewter Report staff is going to be on it. So why don't you join us for some fun? March 7th through 10th, 2025. You can sign up today at tampabaybucscruise.com and get more information at the website too. A lot of players have already committed. We broke some news yesterday on pewterreport.com and mentioned it on the podcast. Mike Allstott, Super Bowl champion and Bucs Ring of Honor member, is joining another new member to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers cruise. Brad Johnson, Super Bowl 37 champion. They are going to be joined by returning to the Tampa Bay Bucs cruise, Super Bowl MVP Dexter Jackson, along with Jimmy Giles, Dave Moore, a couple of fantastic tight ends, Richard Batman Wood, Derek Brooks, the Hall of Famer. He is going to be stopping off at the Key West location. So the ship will depart from Fort Lauderdale, stop in Key West, and then go on to Bimini, Bahamas. And Derek Brooks will be there for that Key West stop. Now, if you're interested in this year's current players, there's 3 new names for this year's cruise. Kalijah Cansey, Jordan Whitehead, Trey Palmer, and Yaya Diaby had so much fun. He is already committed to coming back once again. There's going to be a lot more names as well as we get closer to March, but make sure that you secure your cabin by booking it at tampabaybucscruise.com or by calling 1-800-975-7112. Adam, we get asked all the time about, do you guys have an app? And we don't. Maybe we should, but we don't.
Yeah.
Now, the good news is I can tell you we have partnered with Autograph, and this is the Tom Brady co-founded company, and they have a free app that you can download, and it's called Autograph, Fandom Rewarded. You can actually read Pewter Report's stories there. You can watch our Pewter Report podcast. The videos are all there on the Autograph app. And the cool thing is every story you read and every video you watch, you accumulate points. And those points you can cash in for tickets to sporting events and gear and all sorts of great perks. And you can also follow not just Pewter Report's coverage, but other Tampa Bay Bucs coverage media outlets as well. So you get to pick your team, and it'll have all of the news feeds from different various outlets on there, not just for NFL, but also college. So if you're a Florida Gators fan or Florida State Seminole or UCF Knight or Kansas State Wildcat. You can also get all of your content there, as well as scores, live scores, all in one place. It's the Autograph app. It's absolutely free. You can download it from the App Store or on Google Play. Read Pewter Report news, watch Pewter Report videos and podcasts, get rewarded in one free app. Use the promo code Pewter to sign up, and that'll let them know that we sent you their way. It's the Autograph app, and it's a great tool, great resource to check out news for your favorite teams. And I've already done that. It's a great, easy app to navigate.
Yeah,
and
I love the interface of it. And just
it's
like
great.
you read Bleacher Report or ESPN, Autograph's like the same thing. And the feeds, like you can go like interchangeably, whether it's the Buccaneers or the Rays or the Lightning. It's really great.
Yeah. Hezo813, appreciate you becoming a Pewter Report TV channel member. And he says he booked my cabin thanks to the PR promo. Look forward to meeting you and the PR staff. That's awesome. We love that.
Yeah.
And what we try to do too is we try to find advertising partners that are really going to serve our audience well, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers cruise, the Autograph app, so many different Celsius. Everybody uses Celsius. I know I did waking up at 4 o'clock this morning. I needed a Celsius.
And was going to say with the Tampa Bay Bucs cruise, with Brad Johnson being on it, are we going to see a trick shot maybe from Big Brad?
Oh.
Big Rad Brad.
Heck yeah, I like that. That's certainly something that we can see, because there are basketball courts on the cruises. So
yeah,
that's going to be cool. Let's see here. We got Cameron saying, I got the Autograph app yesterday. It is great. Yeah, it is. So we really appreciate that. Make sure you use Pewter when you sign up. And I'm not sure if they have any special offers right now, but they might do something retroactively. But it does help give us credit for introducing you guys to the Autograph app, and helps our partnership there. So we really appreciate your support. We appreciate all of the new members we have that have joined the Pewter Report TV channel membership. Again, you can find out more information on that by looking on the front page of Pewter Report TV. That's our YouTube channel. And make sure you hit the like button and give us a thumbs up, as well as leave a comment. When you do those things, and as Sly said earlier, I've got a brand new Pewter Pulse video out on Jason Light and the Bucs draft. What is his secret to how this team has drafted so well? Well, I'm going to tell you. And that's the new Pewter Pulse for today. But when you do those things, you hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment, helps us out with the Pewter Report algorithm, helps us grow our channel. We're seeing that behind the scenes with our numbers. Really appreciate that. And of course, you can take your membership to a new level with the channel membership. So that is awesome. And then Saturday, we got a game, folks. It's game week. Make sure you check out pewterreport.com. That's the website. We will have coverage with some stories. The minute the game is over, you can find out who is most impressive, most disappointing. We'll have the game story, plus news from the locker room and the press conferences, all on pewterreport.com. We'll have a Pewter Report post-game podcast. Those are fun. Literally minutes after Baker Mayfield, well, probably not Baker, probably Kyle Trask and Todd Bowles speak. So make sure you stay tuned right here for Pewter Report TV for that post-game podcast. And you can follow us on Twitter, which is also known as X now, Instagram, and Facebook at Pewter Report. It has been an action-packed show, an action-packed week, Adam. I'm ready for some Buccaneer football on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm definitely excited for some football. It's been so long, it feels like, and now we're finally here.
That W says, Adam sounds like he had a cider and a Long Island.
No, Nathan was referring to what I will be drinking on the Bucs cruise.
Okay, yeah.
Hopefully I don't sound like it.
I know you with Long Islands, man. That's your weapon of choice. So we had fun at the NFL annual meeting doing that.
We did.
So I'll be at the old-fashioned station, because that's more my cup of tea. But folks, it's been a fun week. We really appreciate all of you tuning into the Pewter Report podcast. And so we will see you Saturday night on the Pewter Report post-game podcast. We'll do Pewter Game Days during the regular season, but not during the preseason. So we will see you Saturday night after the Bucs hopefully beat the Bengals. That would make everybody in here happy. And so for Adam Slavon, I am Scott Reynolds saying thank you for watching this edition of the Pewter Report podcast, and we will see you on Saturday night for another one.